And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho, and lots of stuff to cover today. Let's get right down to it. First of all, we're looking at the sun here in 171 angstroms, as well as the magnetogram from the SDO instrument to see this sunspot group, which actually had two opposite polarity umbrae when I did show prep, and we are streaming live right now. It's twitch.tv/smAsho. There's this great view of the northern hemisphere, and we've got some great close-ups of that sunspot 2773. Here's a quick view of the fields. Not a lot else to really watch right now. There is a coronal hole leading in about this area. And there's the fade to 304 angstroms, some filamentary behavior. There's 171 angstroms. And here's a close-up at 94 angstroms. I would note that this area right here, let me bring up Epic Pen, I forgot to open it up. This area right here, folks, is not a spaceship. So I just wanted to conclusively state that. And I'm going to bring that image back up in just a moment. Let me just lower the volume here a little bit, and I will be right back. Just bear with me again, we are streaming live. All right. And Windows Media Player is hiding from me. Don't ask me why I use Windows Media Player. It's a secret. It's classified. Don't worry, I'm not angry about it. I am angry about some things, but not that. So yeah, like I was saying, this here is not a spaceship, no matter what ridiculous YouTube channels might tell you, as it only appears in 94 angstroms. It's a little plasma jet that probably gets stuck in a magnetic field and then gets accelerated out of view. Here's the animated image of it. And it's not actually even associated with the sunspot. It just kind of comes out of the chromosphere there. And we often see these little comet-like projections. And keep in mind there is a distance issue with this too, as we can't really see the distance. It's a very bright emission of ionized iron spectra. And it does not show up in other wavelengths. Anyway, great view of that active region there, sunspot 2773. And I just wanted to make a little quick note about delusional YouTube pages. You know, the delusion on YouTube is different than a hallucination. You see, a delusion is a hallucination that you believe to be real. And reality is completely under assault right now, being challenged by people who are mentally challenged via ignorance. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of seemingly ignorant, similarly science-denying folk see things that aren't there. So I didn't tag anybody in this post because I don't want to attract her attention since she's nuts. Anyway, the account that I'm referring to earns thousands of dollars per month, most likely, to spread obvious and outright lies via Google AdSense. So yeah, big tech would like you to think that they're protecting you by protecting you from fake news, and quite the opposite. They're paying people certainly 5 figures a month all over the internet to tell you straight up lies and nonsense and fake news. So just wanted to put that little side note out there, as there's so much nonsense and I'm just sick of it. Here's the view of the sunspot in 171 angstroms. Let's make that even larger. It's larger. It's in charger. And tons of stuff to get to, so we got to get past solar imagery. I'll let that play through it one more time here for you before we look at some more data. Conclusive data. And by the way, again, all that was from the SDO satellite. And if you're wondering where it's located or how the moon gets in between it and the sun, that's how it does it on its figure 8 path in between approximately White Sands and the equator. And the 10.7 centimeter radial flux has come up to 72 as I forecasted yesterday. I said, don't be surprised to see the 10.7 centimeter radial flux increase. KP index is at 2. That's a measure of global geomagnetism. We don't see any significant flares. And hey, the likelihood of flares has gone up because now we see two opposite polarity umbrae, and there's quite a bit of distance between them. They're not particularly big, but they seem to have grown in the past 24 hours. Next, looking at the proton flux, we don't see any proton strikes on the magnetosphere. And we've got a comment here from our viewer and patron Bestoic saying Buddy got offered to join a trial asking how much Facebook would have to pay weekly to deactivate his Facebook account. He's a truther. VLC. I have no idea what that is supposed to mean. If you feel like clarifying, feel free. Next, looking at the real-time solar wind to see a recently diverging BTBZ. So we see the field being more increasingly south-oriented, again, as I forecasted. And the total field has gone up, indicating that the south solar polar field is fairly strong right now. We see a high of 7 on the BT. And right now the BZ is at -4, so a little bit toward the south, a little bit of a south-oriented BTBZ right now. Current phi angle at 159 degrees. Again, there is a coronal hole leading that sunspot group. And the solar wind density just come off its highs in the past couple of hours, having reached up to about 15 protons per cubic centimeter, now down to about 10 protons per cubic centimeter, and the solar wind speed 366, having reached a peak of about 375, and that is kilometers a second. Here's what's going on in geospace. It's 4 hours of data based on the space weather modeling framework. And we've still got pretty decent sized plasma spheres there, although the electron flux is in pretty low levels right now. And they're not as big as they would be if we had very high electron flux levels. We won't get too in-depth into that. And no, NIBIRU is not hiding in the magnetotail. NIBIRU is non-existent. Here's 4 hours of data of ground magnetic perturbations coming a little closer to home. Since we're having a polar excursion, we show this data every day to see if there's any sort of correlation between things like the pole shift. If you weren't aware, the South Pole is in the southern Indian Ocean, as opposed to on the Antarctic continent, thousands of miles from the geographic South Pole. And the North Pole has split in two. Next, looking at the GOES magnetometer to see a pretty flatlined reading here. We saw a pretty low high here at noon satellite time, which is what that N means. Otherwise, pretty normal here, no real surprises there. And the Gong 2 data is not showing the South Pole current sheet coming through yet. Don't be surprised to see some red popping up in this area right here in the next day or two, especially with that sunspot moving into the Earth-facing zone. Although we don't see it yet affecting the polarity of the current sheet at stereo A. So stereo A, you can see, is still in the North Pole current sheet shown here in green, along with the Earth. And yeah, for you new viewers out there, this is stereo A, and this is stereo B at Lagrange point 5 and 4, respectively. This data is from 51 ground-based magnetometers as well as magnetometers on stereo A and B. Next, looking at the line of sight field plot, which shows the B field of the Sun, which also happens to be the interplanetary magnetic field in blue. And let me just check the stream life. And everything looks good. Bestoic says VLC media player traffic cone. Also, basically, Facebook is paying people to deactivate people with large reach of audience that don't match their politics. Yes, Facebook and Google especially are playing politics, and that's not a bow shock behind us. That's the magnetotail. That's where the magnetosphere sort of ends, and the solar wind resumes on its normal course as if not affected by the Earth's magnetosphere. It's not a bow shock, it's the magnetotail. And you can see a little bit of the B field right at the end of the video here being pulled up. You see this blue field, it gets right at the end, right there. You see it get pulled up toward that sunspot, and that's what's going to put Earth in the South Pole aligned. Current sheet shown in red soon. Next, looking at the helio looking at the coronal magnetic field plot here, and you can see the changes in the south solar polar field region there with respect to us. You can see a bunch of open potential field force lines shown in black changing to closed potential field force lines in pink. It also shows coronal hole field force lines in purple. And I just like the graphic. It does give us some indication and predictive value. And let's do a Smash Lights, but it's going to be a Smash Lights light. It's very light. We've got all kinds of social media accounts, if you weren't aware, here at the Smash News Network. We're all over social media. If you haven't checked out smAsho.org, if you go to smAsho.org, you'll see all our social media links right there behind that arrow. And if you notice a problem with the affiliate link, well, there's been a technical difficulty, and it's not our fault. So that stuff will be coming back soon, hopefully today, if we can get that all fixed back up again. Otherwise, all the links work. And again, we are all over social media. If you enjoy the content, please don't forget to press like and subscribe on YouTube. Tell your friends and foes, science noobs and science pros. We've probably got something for everybody on the channel. And we've got all kinds of extensive playlists with other content. We've got exclusive content on most of our social media. And look for me to get more and more active as it gets colder and colder and I get more sedentary over the winter and put on 20 pounds. Yes. We're also on BitChute, bitchute.com/smashamash. Branch out into alt tech, folks. Get on Minds, get on Gab. Alt tech is going to become increasingly important, especially in 2021, as big tech. I'm expecting and forecasting big tech to have to pay the piper for all of their failures and interference in reality itself. Anyway, we do stream live to Twitch most days, thanks to our followers over there. Check it out, twitch.tv/SmashoMash. Thanks again to everybody leaving comments. We greatly appreciate that. And let's do some cosmology real quick. Happy fall, everybody. Or if you're in the southern hemisphere, happy spring. Happy end to whatever season you were just in, whether it's winter or summer. Less than one day in, I did a live stream yesterday at the exact moment of the equinox, which was at 9:30 and 39 seconds. Although this now says 40 seconds, I guess I was off by 1 second. Please don't crucify me over that, viewers. And don't have a contest over being less patient or more pedantic than I am. You'll lose. Anyway, let's go down a rabbit hole. It's the rabbit hole of cosmology. And, okay, maybe the equinox isn't cosmology, but in any case, let's go down the rabbit hole of cosmology. One of them is climate change. Let's talk about the oceans. Now, the oceans are the location on the planet where the heat latency of the Earth lies. Earth's heat latency is not in the atmosphere. Only about 1% of the Earth's latent heat lies in the atmosphere. So, what does that mean? That means the other 99% at least lies in the oceans. We don't know the temperature of deep down in the Indian Ocean. We don't know the temperature down there, which means we don't know the Earth's climate at all. And measuring the atmosphere is a ridiculous way to suggest that we understand what the climate is doing or even what the Earth's temperature is. Have you ever gone to the doctor and had the doctor measure your temperature by having a breathalyzer administered? No, what's that? It's because the atmosphere does not tell us jack about the Earth's temperature. Now, to extrapolate on that a little bit, carbon has nothing to do with the Earth's temperature. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is plant food. Let that sink in. It's not the climate control knob. And if you simply do a search for, watch this, 600 million years of climate change, and you click on images, you'll find this graph. And if you see this graph, and you still think that carbon dioxide is correlated with temperature, then I don't know what to tell you. Take a statistics class. Anyway, the point is, we don't know how much carbon humans are producing. We don't know how much carbon the oceans are producing. We don't know how much carbon the oceans are sequestering. And the carbon sink of the oceans could be underestimated by up to 900 million metric tons. Yeah, just up to 900 million metric tons. What could possibly go wrong with a measurement with a margin of error of that large? Well, who knows? But guess what? even if the estimates were right, it would have nothing to do with the Earth's climate. So I just thought I'd like to put that out there during this cosmology segment. All your weather comes from space. Carbon is no predictor of the Earth's climate. In fact, the climate determines how much carbon shows up. It's produced by the exhalation of things like plants, mammals. Yeah, that's right. Plants exhale carbon dioxide after they consume the glucose that they create during photosynthesis. Now, a lot of people don't seem to be aware of this, but plants produce glucose just like you do, and then they burn that for energy. And when they burn the energy, they use oxygen and they exhale carbon dioxide, just like you do. If anybody thinks plants just suck up carbon and spit out oxygen, they should take a bio class. So let's talk about our mission. You can read all about it at smashomash.com/forum/mission. That's smashomash.com/forum/mission. Number 6 is to assist mankind, by advancing the study of predictive phenomena to optimize value, reduce risk and liability, save lives and resources, and adapt no matter what the adversity is. Yes, no matter what the adversity is. And that's part of the reason why we study cosmology. Anyway, an interesting article here in Nature Astronomy about the highest energy quasi-periodic oscillations of a black hole jet ever measured. If you want to read all about that, it's on SciTech Daily and on phys.org. It'll send you to the High X-ray Modulation Telescope of China, and I have no idea what to do with this. I may check it out later. If anybody goes through and translates this, and I'm not using translate. Oh, it's got an English link. Son of a beehive. Thank you, China. China. Thank you, China. China. Not everything made in China is bad, people. Okay, not everything made in China is bad. Some things in China are the most spectacular, most beautiful, most amazing, most stupendously awesome things that you've ever seen. But some things made in China just aren't really that quality. Some things in China are cheap and plastic, right, COVID? Anyway, check out the site. Let us know what you think. If you want to follow the X-ray output of MAXI J1820 plus 70, which is the object in here, just go to the Neil Gorell Swift Bat X-ray Observatory and type in 1820. It's the third entry, MAXI J1820 plus 070, a massive radio source, which has quite a variability in its X-ray flux output, to say the least. Today's featured object is M81. Yes, the largest galaxy in the M81 cluster. There's great articles about it on Wikipedia and all over the internet. It was the location of a supernova back in 1983, known as supernova SN1993J, if you want to read all about that and other stuff about M81. The core of the galaxy is estimated to be very massive, at 70 million times the mass of the sun. Let's talk about COVID. I'm just going to leave you there, COVID. You're actually kind of cute nowadays. Now, our patrons aren't made in China. Consider becoming a patron if you haven't. You could do so at patreon.com/smashomash. Again, it's the true source of funding for the content. So yeah, thanks to our patrons. We update this once a month. It's only for active patrons, so if you're currently active but you've only activated this month, you won't see your name until the 1st of next month, because you got to pay up before you find yourself on the credit crawl. So again, thanks to our patrons. If you want some added content, things like graphics and other secret things that I'm not allowed to divulge publicly, head to patreon.com/smashomash and learn all about it. There are 9 tiers. Let's talk about Pennsylvania's top COVIDiots. There they are. There they are. The top COVIDiots in Pennsylvania. Well, it looks like their time has come. Here's Dr. Rachel Levine, former NCAA linebacker. Yeah, I'm serious. Now, Dr. Levine's name used to be Richard Levine, if you're wondering, and here's Pennsylvania's top COVIDiot, occupier of the governor's mansion, which perhaps maybe is on fire now. Tom Wolf. Yes, Tom Wolf. And we cannot verify whether or not his middle name is Sucks a Dick of it or not, so please let us know, as that I heard it's Latvian. So anyway, let's talk about COVID. Suck it, Tom Wolf. Your stay of judgment has been denied, and that means that your orders regarding mask mandates and lockdowns and partial and complete business closures are null and void. Sure, you can appeal, but until you win, we can do what we want. So enjoy that, Tom. Do the math, Tom. 8 equals capital D. I like to dispel evil. It's part of the reason I make these videos. And P.S. to Rachel Levine, you couldn't tackle running backs in college, and you cannot tackle Pennsylvania's populace or their health care needs. You do the math also, Rachel. 8 equals capital D. We've got a whole subject at smAsho.com/forum just about COVIDiots. If you'd like our Pennsylvania's top COVIDiots meme, head to smAsho.com/forum and go to the general science section, because I consider COVIDiocy a psychological situation. I used to be a psych major, if you're wondering why I know so much about psychology. Anyway, judge denies Wolf's bid to keep gathering limits in place while ruling on coronavirus measures is appealed. So again, suck it, Tom Wolf. All of the mandates by the governor in Pennsylvania are now not enforceable. So congratulations on Pennsylvania for restoring freedom and liberty. And this has implications on every single one of the states out there with unconstitutional lockdowns, mandates, and all kinds of other stuff by governor executive fiat. It's not constitutional. The implications are that it's going to apply to everybody. So tell your state legislators to do the same thing. Cheers. If you haven't headed to smAsho.org, check it out. We've got an extensive section of clothing now at the smAsho store. Just head to smAsho.org. You'll be redirected to smAsho.com, and you can just click on smAsho forum to get to that forum stuff, or better yet, go to the smAsho store. Now, thanks to everybody who's bought stuff from our Teespring designs. There'll be more. Perhaps you'd like a Mansa shirt. Perhaps you would like to get rid of your governor's ridiculous orders and make America not suck again. Guess what? It's up to you. That's why we made the shirt. Also, I'd like to state that all things matter. So whether you're a female Democrat and you want this blue shirt that says all things matter with the blue lettering design, we've changed our designs to have exclusive color designs now. So the older designs, such as the Mansa and Mensa shirt and the Smash Survive shirt, which is actually what I'm wearing today, if you're wondering, check it out. It's the I survived a global pandemic so far, and it's got a Grim Reaper motif there in the background with the coronavirus. Because, hey, guess what, folks? Life is risky. Deal with it. Life is risky. It's always been risky. Antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis is still out there. It was out there last year at this time. And if I had it my way, I would be doing the exact same things in the grocery store that I did last year, which is not wearing a mask, which is not licking my hands while I'm in the grocery store, which is not licking cart handles or products on the shelves, then coming home, putting all the products away, and then washing my hands and calling it a day. That's the way normal people with a brain who know anything about infectious diseases go to the grocery store. Perhaps you'd like a HIPAA shirt, which says, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996 is the reason that you can't legally force me to divulge any medical information, hence you can't legally force me to wear or not wear a mask, and you can't legally do anything about my decision to wear or not wear a mask. I was an insurance agent and a medical records tech, so I know about HIPAA. I've been entrusted with people's protected health information for decades, and I probably know a lot more about it than you do, which is why I made the shirt. And thanks for tuning into another Smash Light segment, where I talk about whatever I want and take a little aside from spaced out data for our spaced out fans. And then I go back to spaced out data, such as the 1-year graph of the electron flux. There you go. And we're at quite low levels again. We don't see a lot of charging hazards, although the main ones we do see are over Mexico. NOAA's forecasting a sort of a flat electron flux here over the next 24 hours, actually over the next couple of days. And I would agree with this forecast more or less. That looks about right, maybe a little bit higher for this third block. Here's a 3-day graph of the greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volt electron flux. And this has to do with the Van Allen belts, folks. And that's part of the reason why we cover this, is because this is a measurement of the electron flux at the ionosphere layer by the GOES 16. Here's a visualization of the whole layer column. It's the total electron content forecast. And we see some anomalies here. We see some sort of a twist, a Swiss cheese pattern happening in part of this animation. And it's actually got to do with very low electron flux. So you should expect extra low GPS errors right now. Your GPS should actually be quite accurate in most places. I'm going to let that play through a second time there, because there are some oddities before we look at the ionosphere. So there you can see some oddities right at the beginning, and they've largely subsided now. Typically, the highest electron flux will appear just behind the equator at noontime. So the sun having just moved across the equator, since we had an equinox yesterday. And by the way, this is the best time for geomagnetic storms. Things like aurora are most likely around the equinoxes, probably because of the relative equilibrium of the field-aligned currents to which the incoming solar plasma must align. Field-aligned currents, magnetic field force lines, however you want to state it. The electrons are on the magnetic field force line, so in any case. Anyway, here's the ionosphere data, and it's looking quite anomalous here, actually. We've got major charge-ups here in the southern hemisphere, major charge-ups, and major discharges at nighttime. So it's pretty, it's a bit anomalous here, folks. Now that's looking normal there, but considering the rest of the data, and maybe we'll look at this more in depth at later times to see if we can correlate this with anything. Here's where planets are and so on in the solar system. There's where they'll be in 7 days. And thanks again for leaving comments, folks. We're getting comments here from both Bestoic and Sir Giddy. We greatly appreciate that. And here's what's going on above my head. I like to use in-the-sky.org, and I orient my star chart to the south, because I'm currently facing the south, and so does my couch. Plus the ecliptic is in that way. And since I'm a solar forecaster and heliophysicist, it just makes sense. I'm in the northern hemisphere. That's where the ecliptic is. If you're up before sunrise, you may see Venus. And where will you be when Deneb sets? What happens when Deneb sets? How is Deneb associated with solar input activity? Is Deneb associated with the solar cycles? How come we only seem to know of one point source for cosmic ray flux? You don't know about Deneb? Head to smAsho.com/forum and go to the cosmology segment. There's a whole thread just about one massive X-ray binary known as Cygnus X3 Deneb, otherwise known as Alpha Cygni. It's just the most intrinsically luminous object visible from the solar system, at least in the galaxy. Anyway, running down the earthquake list, we see a 4.8 deep quake at Chile, as well as we saw a 4.1 in California here. We'll get to it in a minute. I'll show you the location of that one. There's a 3.6 in Nevada as well. There's a 4.7 at Chile, 4.7 at Guatemala. Basically a lull in earthquakes here, folks. And that 4.1 in California came in, oh, I'm sorry. It's a 4.1 off the coast of Washington. There we go. So there's a location of that quite far out in the ocean there. Not likely to be felt by anybody. I apologize. I meant a 4.1 at Washington, not California. So yeah, the largest quakes of the past 24 hours were just a couple of little 5.2s one near Antarctica, and that's the second Antarctican quake, second and third Antarctican quakes. You've actually seen 3 quakes there, so perhaps those are foreshocks. In any case, they're not deep quakes. And there you go. There's the past 24 of earthquakes. Next, looking at volcanoes, and we've been seeing a bit of an uptick here in volcanoes, a whole bunch of volcanoes returning to the list. Mount Abico is producing a 14,000-foot ash plume. Cinnabung, the deadliest volcano of the past 5 years or so, is doing some steam emissions. Perhaps it's preparing for another big eruption. Dacono exploding, flight level 070, 7,000-foot ash plume there. Fuego exploding, 16,000-foot ash plume there. Sangre exploding, flight level 210 there, 21,000-foot ash plume. Emissions have dissipated at Revenador, dispersed I should say. Sabancayas exploding down in Peru, 26,000-foot ash plume. And Piton de la Fournaise on La Réunion, a French island off the coast of Africa, has been inflating. So also carbon dioxide emissions have increased, and guess what? We don't know what the input of volcanic carbon dioxide, human carbon dioxide, oceanic carbon dioxide, or forest carbon dioxide are. Don't be arrogant. And let's talk about cosmic rays, since they're directly associated with the weather and the climate, the actual climate. Here's the neutron monitor at Apatity, which is showing an uptick over the past 30 days. Barentsburg monitor showing a small uptick as well. Those two monitors very far north. Let's go a little farther south to Athens, at a latitude more similar to my location. There's the Athens neutron monitor, pretty flat over the past 24. And let's get back to comments while I load up Mexico City. Stoic says the skies looked very unusual tonight about 2 hours ago. I wouldn't say it was an aurora, but the sky was quite lit up. What would you attribute that to then if it's not an aurora? And are you anywhere near far enough north to see an aurora? There's the Mexico City 30-day chart of cosmic ray flux, and it's pretty flatlined at Mexico City. Lastly, we'll look at Oulu, Finland, and DOMC Antarctica. So there's Oulu, flat over the past 30, and there's DOMC Antarctica, pretty flat over the past 30 there as well. So there's your cosmic ray update. Let's look at weather.gov. Some of the flood warnings there are finally being mitigated on the Gulf Coast. Shout out to all of our viewers in those locations. We hope you're doing okay. Next, looking at nullschool.net to see where the jet streams are located. There you have it. And we still see like a tripled up jet stream over North America there, as well as extreme meridional jet stream bends, where it's going due north and due south. Normally it goes west to east, folks. Here is the jet stream scenario over the eastern world, and we still see the jet stream blowing backwards over the Indian Ocean. Shout out to our African and European viewers. There are your water vapor maps. Shout out to our Far Eastern viewers and viewers from Oceania. There's your water vapor map. Here's a water vapor map for the Americas. Check out the mass of dry air here in the South Pacific. Looks like an anticyclone. There's a bit of a counterclockwise rotation there. And you can see that low pressure system just about to strike Newfoundland. There you can see it on windy.com. Let's zoom out and advance the pressure maps for the whole planet. Here's the GFS forecast for the next approximately 24 hours. We'll advance this a little beyond that. And you can see that storm tracking right up the coast there. Here's where we expect things to be at 12 noon tomorrow. Looks like it's going to go in between Canada and Greenland. Windy.com, they've got a great mobile app, by the way. Lightningmaps.org. We just saw some terrestrial lightning here in North Dakota. North. That's two norths. Hey, Bobles. There's thunder rolling in. Is there even like 5 people there? Jeez. It must be the Snake River. I don't know. Anyway, impress your friends and frighten your foes with lightningmaps.org. Forecast thunder the next time you hear it by seeing where the lightning strikes were and then pretending as if you've summoned Thor. That could be good. Or perhaps you're not a Viking. I don't know. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map. I'm over it. And next we're going to show you a close-up of Newfoundland to show you that counterclockwise rotating system, which is not that enriched with clouds, actually. Bustoic says, exactly, perhaps a fog or pressure and reflection of streetlights, but even that's unusual for that levels. Yeah, that happens a lot, man. If you have low clouds, you can have the entire sky illuminated by light pollution. It happens here all the time. And there's a good view of that system striking Newfoundland. It's not really that dense of a cloud system there. I don't think there's that much water vapor in it. Let's check it out. See, it's not that wet. And yes, I can tell these things, folks, because if you immerse yourself in the data, you will understand the correlation and perhaps even the physics. So here's the water vapor map for that same area. And it's not rotating very much anymore. I'm expecting it to weaken, as there's not really enough moisture to fuel it. And there's not going to be a lot of evaporation, as the water off the west coast of Greenland isn't exactly what you would call warm. Here's the full view U.S. water vapor map, one of the most telling maps. In fact, we're actually going to zoom in here on Louisiana for any viewers from down there to give you an idea of what will happen next. Because sometimes the Doppler radar won't tell you, folks. The Doppler radar is measuring vertical movement in the air column, and it can be very deceptive. So for that purpose, there's a high-res water vapor map. And there are some huge pressure gradients there, and there must be some pretty warm water in the Gulf, as we see some rapid cloud nucleation as well. Or I could say some rapid evaporation, I guess. The good thing about the water vapor map, folks, is it shows you water vapor not condensed onto clouds. Thanks to the SMASH team for tuning in. It's about time for me to vanish, because I've got another video to make. We're going to make a terms defined video. Terms defined. Overreach. Yes, not a reach around. Overreach. Is the government trying to give you a reach around that you would prefer to not receive? In any case, thanks for flying, American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, because we've got bonus features. Bonus features such as the 193 angstroms 48-hour SDO video, a close-up of the 2 Umbre that I talked about, seeing while I did show prep, a close-up of the fields in colorized magnetogram, ultra-high res, and we see a North Pole Umbra and a South Pole Umbra, meaning this is born as a beta class, increasing the likelihood of solar flares, coronal mass ejections, etc. And it looks like the leading Umbra has evaporated. So we still see a leading North Pole field. It's still a cycle 25 sunspot. This looks like it's all south polarity here. It may be an alpha. And this is a thing that happens all the time, folks. A sunspot can go from alpha to beta, and back and forth over and over again. It happens all the time. Here is the 193 angstroms, 48-hour SDO video. Significant coronal holes there, practically connected to the north solar polar coronal hole. And there'll be some high-speed wind on the way from those in the next couple of days. And maybe we'll get a jack-o'-lantern style coronal hole system. Is it forming? I think there might be a jack-o'-lantern forming. It's just saying, it's not October yet. And have you noticed how my forecast was correct when I said Mars and Venus would switch places? Since Venus is now the most interesting place for life because of phosphine gas found in the atmosphere. I was only kidding on the scrying with SMASH playlist. But this is how it works, folks. Sometimes you find yourself being correct. Is it divine providence? Or is it just luck? Or is it neither? Is it skill, talent, and training? Who knows? In any case, thanks for tuning in. Stare at the sun. Don't drink. Use the proper instruments like the SDO. Don't drive. Certainly don't drive. It's no fun. It's very costly. It's no fun. It wastes a lot of energy. And the internal combustion engine, indeed, has been outdated for decades. So we'll talk to you soon. We're making a second video at some point this morning. And may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiously absent from your state.